Hi traders, this is Raghee Horner, the Chief Currency Analyst for IBFX, and I want to talk to you about a subject that most Forex traders don't consider, I think, often enough or don't understand, and that is what is happening with what I call the Forextra, or the market pulse. Now, as Forex traders, a lot of times, I'd say most of us, keep an eye on risk through pairs like the Aussie yen or through pairs like the Euro yen. Here's the Aussie yen. We'll take a look at what the underlying risk environment is like based upon whether or not the Aussie is gaining on the yen, showing an uptrend. In that case, we have risk appetite, or risk is on the table. If it's moving lower, we know that there's risk aversion, or that risk is off the table. The same thing goes the Euro yen. So we'll look at the way the Aussie and or Euro are either gaining or losing ground against the Japanese yen. But there's another way that we should look at the risk environment for what I call harmony. And this is how we do it. This is just a simple quote board. You can pull this up a number of ways. I just happen to be using the TradeStation quote board for this. And what I'm looking at is really a handful of markets that I call the Forextra. And that Forextra is comprised of the dollar index, the gold market, the Dow, S&P, and the crude oil market. And you'll see I've got all 5 of these right here. I'm keeping an eye on them. The reason I've listed them the way I have, with the dollar first and then the remaining markets following that, is because what I seek to do with this order is look to see if the dollar is up or down. In other words, if it's green or red, the net change, how much is it up or down, what kind of percentage, and then I want to see the markets below that follow suit. Now, what do I mean by follow suit? Well, if the dollar is strong, like it is today, you can see this right now, it's up 15 ticks. That's a pretty healthy move for the US dollar index. I should then see weakness in the gold market, which I actually am seeing. But then I should then also see weakness in the Dow, in the S&P, and in crude oil. Now notice what we have here today. I actually have the gold market looking kind of weak, and then I have the equities markets looking pretty strong. The equities markets right now on the YM, the E-mini futures for the Dow is up 111 points, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average itself is up 107 points. So no one would call this a weak day. You're up triple digits. The market is bullish. The market is risk on, risk appetite, okay? So in that environment, I'd want to see actually a weaker dollar. If I'm going to have harmony in this market, I should have a weak dollar, and I should then, corresponding with that weak dollar, I should then have a strong equities market. Now, I don't have a weak dollar. I have a strong dollar, and I have strong equities. So this market immediately is not showing, I can see that very clearly, it's not showing a lot of clarity in terms of risk. Whenever I have that, I immediately want to remember that there's probably confusion and or light trading in the market, because if we're firing on all cylinders with a clear risk picture, I should see this first market, the dollar, red while everything else is green. Or if the dollar is green, I should see everything else red. The only market that's in harmony with the strong dollar right now is the anti-dollar play of gold. So in terms of follow-through, I'm going to be very, very hesitant to expect follow-through because of the manner in which the dollar is gaining and equities are gaining. Usually there's an inverse relationship there. Now, there are certain markets that I'm actually seeing great follow-through on. 2 of them happen to be positions that I've been writing about in the Daily Forex Trading Edge. One of them is the Euro Aussie. We've been talking about the Euro Aussie moving down to the 200 period simple moving average for the better part of 3 different updates now. And I'm finally getting that follow-through. Not on Euro weakness, not in an environment where the dollar's kind of flat and equities are strong, but rather on, I believe, calm dollar strength, because I'm seeing the Aussie stronger, I'm seeing the loonie stronger, as well as the Kiwi. Now, the loonie is an interesting look at the dollar strength or weakness in this environment, because right now, as you can see here, especially on this 5-minute chart, I've got a stronger loonie against the greenback. Even though it's flattening out right now, I see that overall I'm dealing with a stronger loonie against the greenback. Well, I know that my dollar isn't exactly flat. In fact, it's kind of bullish, right? So I do have some dollar strength, but what we're seeing here is a foot race. Imagine two runners just booking down the track, running as fast as they can, right? What's happening here? My dollar is pretty strong, but it's not running quite as fast as the loonie. So my greenback, I should say they're both dollars. My U.S. dollar is strong, but my Canadian dollar is stronger, and that's where we're seeing the move lower on the dollar Canada. So I have a lot of calm dollar strength today. So even though I don't have clarity here, there are pockets of strength, and you have to keep especially a close eye on that when you don't have harmony. And this lack of harmony here is a warning. Look for those particular pockets of strength and be very cautious about the way in which you'll expect follow-through, because you're not getting that nice inverse relationship between risk on and risk off on these very important futures markets, again, what I call the Forextra, or the market pulse.